The rain drummed against the windshield as Maya Williams pulled her sputtering Honda Civic into the Lincoln Elementary pickup zone. Steam rose from under the hood like a white flag of surrender. She glanced at her watch, 6:47 p.m. Zara would be waiting in the after-school program, probably the last child there again. Before Maya could even step out, a figure in uniform approached through the downpour. Officer Bradley, badge glinting under the streetlights, didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Hey! You can't park that piece of junk here. This is a school zone, not a homeless shelter." Maya's stomach dropped. She forced a smile, stepping out in her wrinkled scrubs. "Officer, I'm so sorry. My daughter's still inside and my car just broke down." "I don't care about your sob story," Bradley cut her off, his voice carrying across the parking lot where other parents hurried past with averted eyes. "Move it now, or I'll have it towed and you arrested for loitering." Have you ever watched someone abuse their power simply because they thought no one important was watching? Maya's hands trembled as she fumbled with her keys. After 14 hours at City General Hospital's pediatric ward, saving premature babies and comforting frightened families, she barely had energy left for this confrontation. But Zara needed her. "Officer, please understand. I've been bringing my daughter here for 2 years. I know all the pickup protocols. My car just chose tonight to give up on me." She gestured helplessly at the steam still rising from her hood. Lincoln Elementary sat in the heart of Riverside Heights, where manicured lawns stretched between colonial houses worth more than Maya would earn in a decade. She'd chosen this school specifically for Zara, driving 45 minutes each way because her brilliant 8-year-old had tested into their accelerated STEM program. The sacrifice was worth it. Zara was thriving. Bradley circled her car like a predator sizing up wounded prey. He'd patrolled this affluent neighborhood for 6 years, appointed himself guardian of property values and social order. Anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of belonging became a problem to solve. Around them, luxury SUVs glided through the pickup zone. Parents in tailored suits and designer activewear collected their children with practiced efficiency. Maya's broken-down Honda stuck out like a rusty nail in polished wood. "Ma'am, step back from the vehicle," Bradley commanded, his hand resting on his radio. "I'm calling this a suspicious situation." Across the street, a black sedan with tinted windows sat quietly, its occupant invisible but attentive. Inside, a figure in a dark suit pressed a phone to his ear, speaking in urgent, hushed tones. Maya noticed other parents slowing their departure to watch the drama unfold. Janet Morrison, a real estate agent whose son was in Zara's class, whispered to her neighbor, what did she expect parking that thing here?" The judgment stung more than the rain soaking through Maya's scrubs. She'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through nursing school, raised Zara alone while earning her pediatric certification, and moved to this district specifically to give her daughter better opportunities. Every sacrifice had been for Zara's future. "I understand your concerns, officer," Maya said, maintaining her professional composure despite exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. "I can show you my nursing license, Zara's enrollment paperwork, anything you need to verify we belong here." Bradley wasn't listening. He was already speaking into his radio. "Unit 247 to dispatch. We've got a situation at Lincoln Elementary, someone who doesn't belong in the area causing disruption. Requesting backup." The coded language made Maya's blood run cold. She'd heard these euphemisms before, growing up in a different neighborhood where police visits rarely brought good news. Doesn't belong meant black. Causing disruption meant existing while black. Her phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID read Michael, but she couldn't answer while dealing with Bradley's hostility. The missed call would haunt her later. Her husband trying to reach her about family dinner plans, unaware his wife was being treated like a criminal for having car trouble. Through the school's glass doors, Maya glimpsed Zara's bright yellow backpack. Her daughter was probably wondering why Mommy was late, maybe worried something bad had happened. Zara was sensitive to adult tensions, often asking questions Maya struggled to answer in age-appropriate ways. "Look, Officer Bradley," Maya tried again, reading his nameplate. "I'm a pediatric nurse at City General. I spend my days saving children's lives. My daughter is an honor roll student here. We're not causing any trouble, we just need help." But Bradley had already made his decision. In his mind, Maya wasn't a healthcare hero or devoted mother. She was a problem that needed removing from his pristine jurisdiction. Principal Rodriguez emerged from the building, recognizing the commotion. She'd known Maya for 2 years, had watched her navigate parent-teacher conferences with quiet dignity, and had seen Zara blossom under her mother's encouragement. "Mrs. Williams?" Rodriguez called out, jogging through the rain. "Is everything okay?" Finally, Maya thought, someone who could vouch for her character. Someone who understood she belonged here. But as Rodriguez approached, Maya noticed Bradley's expression hardening further. Witnesses meant complications. Accountability meant paperwork. He needed to resolve this situation quickly before it spiraled beyond his control. The black sedan across the street remained motionless, its occupant still invisible but increasingly agitated. Phone calls were being made, urgent conversations unfolding in the shadows while Maya faced her moment of truth in the harsh glare of streetlights. Maya pulled out her wallet, extracting her nursing license, driver's license, and Zara's school enrollment forms. She'd learned long ago to keep documentation ready. Being black in predominantly white spaces often required proving your right to exist. "Here's everything you need," she said, offering the papers with steady hands despite the storm brewing in her chest. Bradley examined the documents with theatrical skepticism, as if Maya might have forged nursing credentials just to pick up a child from elementary school. His backup was coming. His authority was absolute. In his mind, this was just another successful day of keeping undesirables away from decent families. He had no idea how wrong he was about to be. Officer Janet Collins arrived with sirens silent but authority blazing. Her patrol car pulled up behind Maya's Honda like a predator cornering prey. Collins stepped out with one hand resting casually on her taser, scanning the scene with the practiced eye of someone who saw threats in every shadow. "What have we got, Bradley?" she called out, not bothering to acknowledge Maya's existence. "Suspicious vehicle, expired registration, subject acting evasive," Bradley replied, his voice carrying the coded language of police reports that would later justify whatever happened next. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Expired registration, she'd been putting off renewing it for 3 weeks, choosing between car payments and Zara's school supplies. The registration was only 27 days overdue, but in Bradley's hands, it became a weapon. "Ma'am, your vehicle matches the description of one involved in a break-in this afternoon," Collins announced, her voice projecting across the parking lot where parents were now openly staring. "That's impossible," Maya said, her professional composure cracking. "I've been at the hospital since 6 this morning. I have time-stamped badge entries, security footage." "Save it for the station," Collins interrupted. "We're going to need you to step away from the vehicle and place your hands where we can see them." Principal Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice firm but respectful. "Officers, I've known Mrs. Williams for 2 years. She's one of our most dedicated parents. Her daughter Zara is in our gifted program." "Ma'am, please step back," Bradley commanded. "School personnel can't verify someone's criminal history." The word criminal hung in the air like poison gas. Maya felt it seeping into the consciousness of every watching parent, every teacher, every child who might overhear. Criminal. The label that would follow her daughter through school hallways and playground whispers. "My registration is expired, not criminal," Maya said, her voice stronger now. "I'm a pediatric nurse. I save children for a living. I don't break into houses." Collins circled to Maya's passenger side, peering through windows as if expecting to find stolen goods. "Nursing licenses can be faked. ID can be forged. We've seen it all before." The casual dismissal of her life's work, her professional credentials, Her very identity struck Maya like a physical blow. Years of education, thousands of hours caring for sick children, a spotless record of service all erased by two officers who decided her guilt before speaking a single word. "Officers, please," Principal Rodriguez tried again. "Mrs. Williams brings her daughter here every day. The school has her employment verification, emergency contacts, medical records." "Ma'am, I won't ask you again to step back," Collins snapped. "You're interfering with a police investigation." Maya watched Rodriguez retreat, another potential ally silenced by the threat of authority. The system was working exactly as designed, isolating the target, eliminating witnesses, creating a narrative that justified whatever came next. Through the school's glass doors, Maya saw Zara's small face pressed against the window. Her 8-year-old daughter was watching her mother being treated like a dangerous criminal, absorbing lessons about justice and fairness that no child should learn this way. "Zara, honey, go back inside," Maya called out, trying to keep desperation from her voice. "Mommy will be there in just a minute." But Zara had already seen too much. She pushed through the doors and ran toward her mother, clutching a science fair trophy and a certificate declaring her Student of the Month. The irony was devastating, an honor student watching her mother's humiliation. "Mommy, why are the police here?" Zara asked, her voice small and confused. "Sometimes adults have misunderstandings, baby," Maya said, kneeling to meet her daughter's eyes. "Everything's going to be okay." Collins stepped between them. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to place your hands behind your back." "For what?" Maya demanded, rising slowly. "For having car trouble? For being black in your neighborhood?" The accusation of racism made everyone uncomfortable. The watching parents, the school staff, even Collins herself. But instead of prompting self-reflection, it made Bradley more aggressive. "Don't make this about race," he snarled. "You broke the law, and now you're playing the victim card. That's exactly what I'd expect." Maya's phone buzzed again. Michael calling, probably wondering where his family was for dinner. But Collins was already reaching for handcuffs, and Maya realized this nightmare was just beginning. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for driving with expired registration and obstruction of justice." As cold metal touched her wrists, Maya looked up at the black sedan across the street. Its occupant was no longer making phone calls. The figure was stepping out into the rain, and something about his posture suggested the game was about to change dramatically. The handcuffs clicked shut around Maya's wrists, like the sound of a cell door slamming. Zara's scream pierced the evening air, a sound that made every parent in the pickup zone freeze mid-stride. This wasn't just police work anymore. This was family destruction happening in real time. "No! Don't take my mommy!" Zara cried, dropping her trophy to clutch at Maya's legs. The science fair award rolled across wet asphalt, its golden star now tarnished with rain and tears. Maya bent awkwardly, constrained by handcuffs, trying to comfort her daughter. "Baby, look at me. Mommy didn't do anything wrong, okay? This is just a big misunderstanding." Collins pulled Maya upright with unnecessary force. "Ma'am, you need to step away from the child. We've contacted Child Protective Services." The words hit Maya like lightning. CPS, family separation. Everything she'd fought to build, a stable home, a good school, a secure future, was threatened by two officers who saw her skin color before her humanity. "You're calling CPS because my car registration expired?" Maya's voice cracked with disbelief. "Because I had car trouble?" Bradley shrugged with practiced indifference. "You'll be unavailable to care for a minor child. Protocol requires notification." Principal Rodriguez stepped forward again, her professional obligation overriding her fear. "Officers, that's not how CPS works. They can't remove a child without proper assessment and documentation. Mrs. Williams has emergency contacts, family members." "Ma'am, final warning about interfering," Collins snapped, but Rodriguez stood her ground. "I'm not interfering. I'm protecting a student. This is still school property, and that child's welfare is my responsibility. The principal's defiance sparked something in the gathered crowd. Other parents began emerging from their luxury vehicles, smartphones appearing like digital weapons. The live stream revolution had arrived at Lincoln Elementary, and Maya's humiliation was about to become viral content. "Oh my God, are they really arresting her?" whispered Sarah Bennett, a software engineer whose daughter played with Zara at recess. She held up her phone, finger hovering over the record button. Janet Morrison, who'd made the dismissive comment earlier, felt a growing sense of unease. This seems excessive. She's clearly a parent, her kid goes to school here. But Collins was beyond reason now, drunk on authority and determined to justify her actions. "Everyone needs to step back or you'll be charged with interfering with police business." The threat worked momentarily. Parents retreated like scattered birds, their privilege protecting them from consequences Maya couldn't escape. But their phones stayed raised, recording everything. Maya's phone buzzed insistently in her pocket, the same Michael contact that had been trying to reach her all evening. Bradley noticed the sound and grabbed the device. "Evidence," he announced, scrolling through her recent calls. "Could be coordinating with accomplices." "Accomplices?" Maya laughed bitterly. "In what? Having a broken-down car?" The absurdity was lost on Bradley, who'd already constructed a narrative where Maya's every action confirmed his suspicions. Her laughter became defiance, her questions became resistant, her very presence became a threat to his authority. A tow truck rumbled into the parking lot, its yellow lights flashing like warning beacons. Maya watched her Honda being hooked up for impound, calculating the devastating cost. Towing fees, storage fees, registration penalties, money she didn't have for a car she couldn't afford to lose. "That's my transportation to work," she said desperately. "I'm a nurse. People depend on me." Should have thought about that before breaking the law," Collins replied, but her voice carried less conviction now. The crowd was growing, and some faces showed genuine concern. Dr. James Wright, a pediatrician whose son was in Zara's accelerated program, pushed through the gathered parents. He'd worked with Maya at City General and had seen her save countless young lives. "Officers, I can vouch for Mrs. Williams," he called out. "She's a colleague, an excellent nurse with an impeccable record." "Sir, please step back," Bradley commanded, but Dr. Wright held his ground. "She saved my daughter's life 2 years ago when she came to our ER with anaphylaxis. Maya Williams is a hero, not a criminal." The testimony was powerful, but it only made Collins more defensive. Witnesses were complicit. Character references were inconveniences. The easier path was to double down on authority. "Sir, if you don't step back immediately, you'll be arrested for interfering with a police investigation." Dr. Wright reluctantly retreated, but the damage was done. Doubt was spreading through the crowd like ripples in a pond. Parents who'd initially assumed Maya was somehow at fault began questioning the officer's behavior. Teacher Margaret Sullivan emerged from the school building, having watched the confrontation escalate. "Officers, I teach Zara Williams. She's one of our brightest students, and her mother is incredibly involved in her education. This doesn't make sense." "Ma'am, school personnel need to stay back," Collins warned. But more staff members were appearing: custodians, security guards, other teachers who recognized Maya from countless school events. The community was beginning to rally, but slowly, cautiously. Each person who spoke up faced the same threat of arrest, the same risk of becoming entangled in whatever charges the officers might fabricate. A white CPS van pulled up with suspicious speed, as if the call had been made before Maya was even arrested. Caseworker Linda Thompson emerged with paperwork already filled out, forms that typically took hours to prepare, suggesting this wasn't random enforcement but coordinated persecution. "Where's the minor?" Thompson asked efficiently, scanning the crowd for Zara. "Right here," Collins said, pointing to the 8-year-old still clinging to her mother's legs. Maya felt panic rising in her throat. You can't take my daughter. I have family, emergency contacts. My husband can be here in 20 minutes. Your husband? Bradley scoffed. The same accomplice who's been calling you all evening? The twisted logic was breathtaking. Maya's family became conspirators. Her emergency contacts became criminal associates. Her very attempts to seek help became evidence of guilt. Principal Rodriguez stepped protectively toward Zara. As an educator and mandated reporter, I'm telling you this removal is unnecessary and potentially traumatic. Mrs. Williams poses no danger to her child. Thompson barely glanced at the principal. Decision's been made. We have temporary custody until the situation is resolved. Zara's cries intensified as she understood what was happening. I want my daddy! Where's my daddy? Maya's heart shattered. In handcuffs, she couldn't comfort her terrified daughter. She couldn't call her husband. She couldn't even prove her identity, because Bradley had confiscated her phone and documentation. Please, Maya begged, abandoning pride for desperation. Just let me call my family. Let me prove who I am. You'll have your phone call at the station, Collins said, beginning to guide Maya toward the patrol car. Parent Marcus Johnson, an attorney whose daughter attended school with Zara, finally found his voice. Officers, I'm a lawyer. This appears to be a significant overreach of authority. Are you certain you want to proceed without allowing her to contact family? Bradley spun around aggressively. Sir, are you interfering with a police investigation? I'm observing potential civil rights violations, Johnson replied calmly, but his legal knowledge only seemed to agitate the officers further. That's when someone in the crowd shouted, "This is live on Facebook. Thousands of people are watching." The announcement sent shockwaves through the scene. Local live streams were becoming viral content. Comments were flooding in from viewers across the city, many recognizing the location and demanding answers. Bradley grabbed for the nearest phone, but the parent pulled away. You can't confiscate private property without a warrant. More phones appeared, a digital army documenting every moment. The officers were losing control of their narrative, and they knew it. Maya looked directly into one camera, her voice steady despite her circumstances. I'm a pediatric nurse at City General Hospital. I save children for a living. My daughter is an honor student. We don't deserve this. The statement was powerful, dignified, and utterly devastating to the officer's credibility. Comments exploded across social media platforms. This is Maya Williams. She saved my nephew's life. She's Dr. Patterson's best nurse. Her daughter tutored my son in math. Recognition was spreading like wildfire through the digital sphere. Hospital colleagues, former patients' families, and school community members were sharing the live stream with growing outrage and support. As Collins began reading Miranda rights and Thompson approached Zara with restraint paperwork, a figure in an expensive suit walked purposefully through the rain toward the crowd. The black sedan that had been parked across the street now sat empty, its occupant finally stepping into the light. Maya looked up from the patrol car, squinting through tears and streetlight glare. Something about the approaching silhouette made her heart skip. Michael? She whispered. But the word was lost in the chaos of arrest procedures and Zara's heartbroken sobs. The most powerful man in the city was about to discover that his wife and daughter were being destroyed by his own police force. And when he did, everything would change. The black sedan's door slammed shut with the authority of power arriving uninvited to its own emergency. Through the rain and chaos, a tall figure in a tailored charcoal suit strode across the asphalt with a purpose that made even the most distracted parents pause their filming. Mayor Michael Williams had been in budget meetings until 7:30, trying to call his wife about dinner plans, growing increasingly worried when she didn't answer. The live stream notification from his security detail had sent him racing across the city, but nothing could have prepared him for this scene. Maya looked up from the patrol car where Collins was forcing her inside, rain mixing with tears on her cheeks. Through the glare of streetlights and smartphone cameras, she saw a silhouette that made her heart stop. "Michael?" she whispered, but her voice was lost in Zara's sobs and the murmur of the growing crowd. Officer Bradley, still focused on crowd control and confiscating phones, noticed the well-dressed black man approaching and immediately shifted into his familiar aggressive stance. Another troublemaker, he assumed. Another person who didn't belong in this neighborhood. "Sir, this is an active police scene," Bradley called out, stepping directly into Michael's path. "You need to move along immediately." Michael Williams stopped walking. For a moment, he simply stared at the officer who'd just ordered the mayor of the city to move along from a scene where his wife was being arrested and his daughter was being threatened with removal by CPS. "Excuse me?" Michael's voice carried the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being the most powerful person in any room. "You heard me," Bradley continued, emboldened by what he perceived as another challenge to his authority. "Keep walking, or you'll be joining your friend in the back of our patrol car." The crowd began to notice the new arrival. Several parents pulled out phones to Google the face that seemed familiar but out of context. Principal Rodriguez squinted through the rain, recognition dawning slowly on her face as pieces fell into place. "Wait," whispered parent Lisa Bennett to her husband. "That looks like... Oh my God, is that the mayor?" Social media notifications were exploding across smartphones as viewers recognized the approaching figure. Comments flooded in. "That's Mayor Williams! He's coming to help her! This is about to get real." Michael reached into his jacket with deliberate calm, producing a leather badge holder that gleamed even in the dim parking lot lighting. "I'm Michael Williams, mayor of this city, and that woman you have in handcuffs is my wife, Maya Williams." The words hung in the air like lightning waiting to strike. Bradley's face went through a series of expressions, confusion, disbelief, then dawning horror as the implications hit him like a freight train. "Sir, Mr. Mayor, we didn't know." Bradley's aggressive posture crumpled like a deflated balloon, his voice suddenly small and uncertain. "Didn't know what?" Michael's voice remained controlled, but everyone present could feel the fury simmering beneath his professional exterior. "Didn't know that my wife deserves basic human dignity? That my daughter shouldn't watch her mother being treated like a criminal for having car trouble?" Collins froze with Maya halfway into the patrol car, suddenly understanding that her career was hanging by a thread. The woman she'd been arresting wasn't just some random black mother, she was the first lady of the city, the wife of the man who controlled their department's budget and their chief's job. Principal Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice shaking with a mixture of relief and vindication. "Mr. Mayor, I tried to vouch for Mrs. Williams multiple times, but the officers wouldn't listen to school personnel. They dismissed my testimony entirely." Michael's eyes swept the scene, taking in every devastating detail. His wife in handcuffs, his daughter crying and confused, the CPS worker holding removal paperwork, his family's car being hooked up for impound. Each observation added fuel to a fire that was about to reshape the entire police department. The live stream audience was exploding as recognition spread across social media platforms like wildfire. Viewers were frantically sharing screenshots, confirming the impossible truth. Hospital colleagues were commenting, "That's Maya Williams. She saved my daughter." Former patients' families chimed in, "She's the angel nurse who worked Christmas." School parents added, "Zara is the sweetest kid. This is insane." "Officers, I need you to explain to me exactly why my wife is under arrest and why Child Protective Services is attempting to remove my daughter from her family." Bradley scrambled for justification, his carefully constructed narrative suddenly seeming flimsy under mayoral scrutiny. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool rain. "Sir, we responded to reports of suspicious activity. The vehicle had expired registration and there were circumstances that required investigation." "Circumstances?" Michael's voice cut through the rain like a blade. "What circumstances require handcuffing a pediatric nurse picking up her honor student daughter?" What circumstances justify threatening to separate a child from her loving mother? Dr. Wright stepped closer, his voice carrying professional authority and genuine outrage. Mr. Mayor, your wife has saved countless children at our hospital emergency department. She's one of our most respected nurses. She worked through the pandemic, saving lives while risking her own. This treatment is absolutely unconscionable. Teacher Margaret Sullivan added her voice. Mrs. Williams volunteers at every school event. She helps other children with their science projects during lunch breaks. She's been nothing but a blessing to our entire community. Parent Marcus Johnson, the attorney who'd tried to intervene earlier, stepped forward with renewed confidence. Mr. Mayor, I witnessed these officers escalate a simple car breakdown into arrest and family separation. Their conduct was egregious from the beginning. Get those handcuffs off my wife, now! Michael's tone brooked no argument, carrying the weight of executive authority. Collins fumbled with her keys, her hands shaking as she unlocked Maya's restraints. The metal fell away like shackles of injustice finally broken, leaving red marks on Maya's wrists that would become evidence in the investigation to follow. Michael helped Maya from the patrol car, wrapping her in his arms as she collapsed against his chest. 2 years of marriage, and he'd never seen her look so defeated, so humiliated by the system he'd sworn to reform. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly, checking her wrists for damage from the handcuffs, his mayoral composure cracking to reveal a worried husband. "My pride is hurt," Maya replied, then looked toward Zara, who was still being held by the CPS worker. "But our daughter is terrified, and that's what matters most." Michael turned to Thompson with an expression that could freeze lava. "Ms. Thompson, you will release my daughter immediately and explain to me why you believed removal was necessary without any assessment or investigation." Thompson, recognizing the political catastrophe she'd walked into, quickly handed Zara over to her parents. "Sir, we received a call about an arrest involving child endangerment. The officers indicated—" "Whose child was endangered?" Michael demanded. "My daughter was safely inside the school under professional supervision while my wife waited for assistance with a broken vehicle. Where exactly was the endangerment that justified this paperwork?" The CPS worker had no answer. Her paperwork, filled out before any actual assessment, looked increasingly like a predetermined conclusion rather than professional judgment based on facts. Zara threw her arms around both parents, finally understanding that Daddy's presence meant safety and that the nightmare was ending. "Daddy, why were they being mean to Mommy? She didn't do anything wrong." Michael knelt to his daughter's level, his voice gentle but his eyes still blazing with controlled anger. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people make very bad mistakes based on wrong assumptions, but Daddy's going to make sure it never happens to our family or anyone else's family again." The crowd dynamics had shifted completely. Parents who'd watched silently or made judgmental comments now surged forward with support and heartfelt apologies. Janet Morrison approached hesitantly, her earlier judgment replaced by deep shame. "Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Williams, I owe you both a sincere apology. I made assumptions based on prejudice and privilege, and I'm deeply ashamed of my initial reaction." Her admission opened floodgates of community conscience. Other parents began expressing regret for their inaction, their judgment, their complicity in allowing the situation to escalate without intervention. Local news crews were arriving rapidly, their satellite trucks and bright lights turning the school parking lot into an impromptu press conference. Reporter Sarah Kim from Channel 7 was already broadcasting live. "We're witnessing an unprecedented situation where the mayor's own family has become victims of the very racial profiling he's campaigned against throughout his political career." Michael stood and addressed the officers directly, his voice carrying across the crowd and into hundreds of smartphone cameras broadcasting to millions of viewers. "I want your badge numbers, your supervisor's contact information, and every piece of documentation related to this incident. Body camera footage, radio logs, dispatch recordings, everything. Bradley and Collins exchanged glances, both realizing their careers were likely over. The police union might protect them from criminal charges, but political pressure from the mayor's office would make their positions completely untenable. "Sir, we were just doing our jobs according to protocol," Collins tried weakly, but her voice lacked conviction. "Your job is to serve and protect all citizens equally, regardless of race or economic status," Michael replied, his voice carrying the authority of office and the pain of personal experience. "You saw a black woman with a broken-down car and immediately assumed criminality. That assumption nearly destroyed my family." Maya found her voice again, stronger now with her family united and her dignity restored. "This shouldn't require me being the mayor's wife for justice to happen. Every parent, regardless of race, income, or political connections, deserves dignity and respect when caring for their children." Michael nodded grimly, his arm still protectively around his wife's shoulders. "My wife is absolutely right. If this can happen to the mayor's family, with all our resources and connections, imagine what happens daily to families without political protection or media attention." Officer Bradley made one last desperate attempt to salvage his position and reputation. "Mr. Mayor, we had no way of knowing who she was. We were responding to what appeared to be suspicious circumstances." Michael cut him off with a look that could melt steel. "That's exactly the problem, Officer Bradley. You should treat every citizen with dignity and respect, not just the ones connected to political power. Justice shouldn't depend on who you know or who your spouse is." The crowd erupted in sustained applause. Parents, teachers, arriving news crews, and even some passers-by who'd stopped to witness history unfolding. Justice had arrived in the form of political authority, but the deeper message about systemic inequality wasn't lost on anyone present. Local mechanic Jose Ramirez arrived with his tow truck, having seen the live stream while working late at his shop. "Mrs. Williams, let me fix your car properly. No charge. Every parent should be able to pick up their children safely without fear of harassment." His gesture sparked others. Parents began offering assistance, contact information, and genuine support, the community finally rallying around the family they'd initially abandoned to police harassment. As the scene reached its emotional crescendo, Maya addressed the crowd one final time, her voice carrying both pain and hope. "I want every parent here to remember this moment. Not because I'm the mayor's wife, but because I'm a mother who almost lost everything for the crime of having car trouble while black in your neighborhood." The power reversal was complete, transforming a moment of injustice into a catalyst for change that would reshape both the community and the city's approach to policing. The immediate aftermath unfolded with the swift efficiency of political damage control meeting genuine justice. Within minutes of Michael's arrival, both officers were placed on administrative leave pending a full internal affairs investigation. Their body camera footage would be reviewed frame by frame, and all charges against Maya were immediately dropped. Captain Sarah Thompson from Internal Affairs arrived within 20 minutes, her presence adding official gravity to what had become a citywide incident. She escorted both Bradley and Collins away from the scene, their union representative trailing behind with a grim expression that suggested this case would be anything but routine. "Mrs. Williams," Captain Thompson said, approaching Maya with professional respect, "I want to personally apologize for what you and your family have endured tonight. This does not represent the values of our department." Maya nodded graciously, though her eyes remained guarded. Apologies were easy. Systemic change would be harder. The Williams family embraced as news cameras captured their reunion, the image destined to become iconic in discussions about racial justice and police accountability. Zara, now understanding her father's importance in the city, felt a complex mixture of pride and confusion about why his identity had been necessary for fair treatment. "Daddy, are you really the boss of all the police?" Zara asked, her 8-year-old mind trying to process the evening's events. "I help make sure they do their jobs correctly," Michael replied carefully. "And sometimes, like tonight, I have to remind them that their job is to help all families, not hurt them." Principal Rodriguez addressed the gathered parents with newfound authority, her voice carrying the weight of witnessing injustice firsthand. We witnessed discrimination in our community tonight, and too many of us remained silent. That silence enabled what happened to Mrs. Williams and Zara. Her words sparked uncomfortable self-reflection among parents who'd initially judged Maya or remained passive bystanders. The privilege that had protected them from police harassment had also blinded them to their neighbors' vulnerability. Michael announced immediate policy reforms that would reshape police interactions throughout the city. Effective immediately, we're implementing mandatory bias training for all officers, establishing a civilian oversight committee, and revising protocols for police interactions at schools and community events. The reforms weren't just political theater, they represented genuine structural change. The Civilian Oversight Committee would include community members, educators, and healthcare workers like Maya, ensuring diverse perspectives in police accountability. Jose Ramirez, the mechanic who'd offered to repair Maya's car, became a symbol of community support transcending racial lines. Mrs. Williams, your Honda just needs a new radiator hose and some coolant. I'll have it running better than new by tomorrow morning. His genuine offer sparked a wave of community solidarity. Parents organized carpools for Zara, offered emergency contacts for Maya, and began meaningful conversations about supporting all families in their school community. Dr. Wright used his medical authority to address the crowd's misconceptions. Maya Williams has saved more children's lives than most people will ever know. She worked 18-hour shifts during the pandemic, risking her health to care for others. The idea that she's anything other than a community hero is absurd. The media interviews that followed became a masterclass in grace under pressure. Maya spoke to reporters with the same calm professionalism she brought to medical emergencies, turning personal trauma into teachable moments. "I don't want sympathy," Maya told Channel 7's Sarah Kim. "I want accountability. I want systemic change so other families don't endure what we experienced tonight." Reporter Kim nodded, recognizing the story's broader implications. "Mrs. Williams, how do you respond to people who might say this incident was resolved quickly because of your husband's position?" "That's exactly the problem," Maya replied without hesitation. "Justice shouldn't depend on political connections. Every parent deserves protection under the law, regardless of who they're married to or how much money they have." The school board called an emergency meeting for the following week, with Maya invited as a keynote speaker. Her experience would inform new policies protecting all parents during school interactions, regardless of their background or economic status. Local businesses began reaching out with support offers, free legal services, car repair discounts, and educational scholarships for Zara. While the Williams family didn't need financial assistance, they redirected donations to organizations supporting families facing similar discrimination without political recourse. Officer Bradley's partner from previous shifts came forward with stories of his pattern of targeting minority parents and residents. The investigation revealed this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a broader culture of discriminatory enforcement in affluent neighborhoods. Collins faced additional scrutiny when body camera footage revealed her aggressive escalation tactics and premature contact with CPS. Her history showed similar incidents that had been overlooked due to complaints being dismissed or discouraged. The CPS worker, Linda Thompson, faced departmental review for filling out removal paperwork before conducting any actual assessment. Her supervisor announced policy changes requiring thorough investigation before any family separation proceedings. Maya returned to work at City General Hospital the next day, where colleagues greeted her with standing ovations and renewed appreciation for her strength. Her story inspired other healthcare workers to share their own experiences with discrimination, creating support networks for addressing workplace and community bias. Zara's teachers at Lincoln Elementary implemented age-appropriate discussions about fairness, justice, and community responsibility. Her classmates, many of whom had witnessed the incident, learned valuable lessons about standing up for others and questioning unfair treatment. The hashtag Maya Williams Strong became a rallying cry for police reform advocates nationwide. Her story resonated beyond local politics, inspiring similar accountability measures in cities across the country. Michael's approval ratings soared as voters appreciated his authentic response to personal crisis becoming public policy. His reforms went beyond political promises, implementing measurable changes in police conduct and community relations. 6 months later, use of force incidents in the city decreased by 40%. Community trust metrics improved significantly across all demographics, and complaints against police were being handled with unprecedented transparency. Maya became a spokesperson for the Equal Justice Initiative, focusing specifically on protecting parents' rights during school and community interactions. Her nursing background lent credibility to discussions about child welfare and family protection. The Williams family drove home together that night, their bond strengthened by surviving injustice together. Zara fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her science fair trophy and feeling safe again in her parents' presence. As they pulled into their driveway, Maya reflected on the evening's events. Personal privilege had protected her family, but millions of others faced similar discrimination without recourse. Her experience had become a catalyst for change, but the real work was just beginning. "We're going to make sure this never happens to another family," Michael said quietly, taking her hand. Maya squeezed back, her resolve strengthened by community support and renewed purpose. "No, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen to any family, regardless of who they know or what they look like." The incident that began with car trouble had transformed into a movement for justice, proving that even the most painful experiences could become catalysts for positive change when met with courage and community support. 6 months after that rainy evening at Lincoln Elementary, the changes were undeniable. Maya Williams' story had become more than viral content. It had transformed into a blueprint for police reform and community accountability across the nation. The statistics told a powerful story. In their city, police harassment complaints had dropped 62%. More importantly, trust surveys showed dramatic improvement in how communities of color viewed law enforcement. Other cities were adopting similar reforms, creating a ripple effect of change that extended far beyond one family's traumatic experience. Maya continued her work as a pediatric nurse while serving on the newly established Civilian Police Oversight Committee. Her medical expertise and lived experience with discrimination brought unique perspective to policy discussions. Every month, she reviewed cases and recommended reforms that protected families like hers. "The goal isn't revenge," Maya told audiences at police training seminars she now regularly addressed. "The goal is ensuring every parent can pick up their child from school without fear of harassment. Every family deserves dignity, regardless of race or economic status." Officer Bradley underwent extensive retraining and community service, working with local organizations to understand the impact of racial bias. His transformation wasn't complete. Meaningful change takes time, but his willingness to confront his assumptions offered hope for broader cultural shifts within police departments. Officer Collins transferred to another department, unable to adapt to new accountability standards. Her departure sent a clear message. Discriminatory behavior would have career consequences, not just temporary suspensions. Michael's political leadership extended beyond his own city. He testified before Congress about police reform, using his family's experience to advocate for national changes in how law enforcement interacts with communities of color. "Personal privilege shouldn't determine justice," he told the congressional committee. "My wife received protection because of who I am, but every citizen deserves that same protection because of who they are, human beings with constitutional rights." Zara, now 9 years old, had grown from the experience with remarkable resilience. She wrote essays about justice for her gifted program, often referencing the night she watched her mother face injustice and her father help create change. The trauma had become part of her identity as an advocate rather than a victim. Lincoln Elementary became a model for inclusive school environments. Parent diversity increased as word spread that the community actively welcomed families from all backgrounds. What had once been an enclave of privilege transformed into a genuinely diverse educational community. The broader implications extended nationwide. Maya's story became required viewing in police academies across 12 states, demonstrating how implicit bias could escalate routine situations into civil rights violations. Training programs now included scenarios based on her experience, teaching officers to recognize and interrupt discriminatory thinking. When you witness injustice in your community, your response matters more than you realize. Silence enables discrimination, while speaking up can prevent escalation and protect vulnerable families. Maya Williams needed a community to stand with her. Every family deserves that same support. The practical steps are straightforward but powerful. Contact your local school board about police interaction policies. Support organizations providing legal aid to families facing discrimination. Document incidents of bias and report them to appropriate authorities. Most importantly, vote for leaders who prioritize criminal justice reform and community accountability. Maya Williams was protected because of who her husband was, but every parent deserves protection because of who they are. Human beings with dignity and rights. Her story proves that change is possible when communities choose courage over comfort, when institutions choose accountability over protection, and when individuals choose action over silence. Share this story not for views or validation, but because Maya Williams's experience could be your neighbor's reality tomorrow. Justice requires witnesses. Accountability demands participation, and change needs champions willing to stand up when it matters most. The question isn't whether you'll encounter injustice in your community, it's whether you'll have the courage to interrupt it when you do. Watch this story again and notice the moments when bystanders could have intervened. Ask yourself, what would I have done? What will I do next time? Because there will be a next time, and someone's family will need you to choose courage over comfort, action over silence, and justice over convenience. If Maya's story moved you, if it made you think differently about privilege and justice, show your support by hitting that like button. Share this video with your friends and family, not for the algorithm, but because these conversations need to happen in every community. Drop a comment below telling us about a time you witnessed injustice or stood up for someone who needed help. Your story might inspire others to find their courage. And if you want to see more stories that challenge injustice and celebrate the power of community action, subscribe to Black Voices Speak and hit that notification bell. Together, we can ensure that Maya Williams's experience becomes a catalyst for change rather than just another viral moment. Will you be ready to stand up when it matters? The answer starts with your engagement today.